Hey, welcome back to What She Said Sports. All right. So, you up? So, this is our late night, overnight podcast for my West Coasters, third shifters, and night owls. Anybody else who just want to be up. All right. So, it's casual, it's laid back. We're going to play some music. We free to talk about whatever topics y'all want to talk about. As y'all can see, there's a video on the screen. This is just a snippet, I guess, of Shedeur and his time at his dad's. I know y'all probably saw the video with him running. You know, it was nice. I loved it. It was very cinematic how he was. It was just darkness, and you could see the headlights. And then as it came closer into the frame, you could see Shedeur jogging in front of the car. And it sounds like I heard some new music from Shedeur, which I thought was quite interesting. And I was reading something and it says Shedeur has Cleveland on his mind, even though he's back in Dallas. So let me know what y'all think about that, right? I thought it was interesting that he dropped some new music. I like it. You know, I didn't think he was going to, but he did. So it just kind of made me wonder. But let me know what y'all thought about it. But it's a catch-22 for me, right? Because I feel like he's already done so much to not to deserve to be in the situation that he's in. He's done nothing to be trying to play catch up and proving himself. He already proved himself. So, in my opinion, to see him putting himself out like that to, I don't know, prove himself, right? I just hate to see it because he already proved himself. And for somebody to use the term Shedeur is out of reach with QB1, it tells you that's the whole plan altogether. And I just really hate that because this young man, I hope he understands that he's just number 17. He's just the 17th black starting quarterback. It's not anything about him, not anything about his father. It's just because he's black, and the NFL does not want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now. They don't want quarterbacks like Cam Ward now. They don't want quarterbacks like Jalen Milroe now. Hell, they don't want quarterbacks like Lenore Sellers either. So, and NCAA football isn't any better. Go look at the top 20, top 15, top 10, top 5 QBs. You can see they trying to change what it looks like for black quarterbacks coming out of college, when the trend was in the first round, there's at least 3 black quarterbacks. Well, they trying to change that in 2026. And that tells you there's nothing that Shedeur could do. That's who the NFL wants to be. They are proving that that's who they want to be, right? They want to match the climate in the country. And, racism is expensive, and they just going to have to learn that lesson. So while I applaud Shedeur for not giving up on his self-worth, who he is, knowing he has nothing to prove to anyone else, I also want to make sure that he knows what's really happening, right? This ain't about your daddy. This ain't about Colorado. This is about black coaches and black quarterbacks. That's what this is about. And we kind of were talking about that on the podcast right before this one. I'm happy to see him back at home, being away from Cleveland, out of sight, out of mind, kind of get to reset mentally. Hell, Shedeur not being in Cleveland allows me to protect my peace a little more, right? Because while he's in Cleveland, I told y'all I don't trust Cleveland with 3 things when it comes to Shedeur: his career, his safety, and his security, right? So, I'm glad he's back, in Dallas. I kind of wonder if he kind of know the next move that's getting ready to be made. Sometimes I think he might, right? Sometimes I think he might. Now, people can be telling me all day long that something has happened, that they keep hearing something, even though nobody sent me a link. They keep hearing that the owner said told somebody, Stefanski, that he wants Shedeur to start. Can y'all confirm this? Can anybody confirm this? Let me know while I put on some music, because I haven't heard that. So y'all let me know. I'm checking the comments, seeing what y'all are saying. Let's see. Let's see. Y'all are saying, hey, how you doing? Hey, Gracie, welcome back. Charlotte, welcome back. Too legit. Yep, that's it. It said up in my. Oh, you got your snacks up with my snacks. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you, Charlotte. Tina said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm up." Okay, all right. So y'all let me know. Like, what do y'all think about? Do y'all think Shedeur kind of know what's going on? Have y'all heard that the owner said anything about Shedeur starting? I didn't see anything like that. I did some research and I didn't see anything. So y'all have to let me know. I'm waiting to see what y'all heard because I haven't heard anything like that. Oh, I know one thing too. I wanted to share why we talk about that. Tina sent me an email yesterday. I asked the question. I said, "You watch any good shows lately?" And Tina sent me an email. Let's see if I can share it. Okay, this is what she said. All right. Let's see. Okay, while I look for that, what y'all saying? Let's see. It said, I have only seen articles that claim he's to be traded. Yeah, me too. Me too. Hey, Jerry, how you doing? Charlotte said, I haven't heard anything. I think he has a sense of discernment. Yep, I would agree with that. Along with his support system of wise counsel. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would agree with that. And it says, oh, by the way, you should check out Formula One on Netflix. Okay, I shall. There are 7 to 8 seasons. Wow. Okay. It has Hamilton on 3. Okay, I will. Because I am interested. Okay. So yeah, why is, kind of quiet? All I hear is the same thing. I think that Gracie's saying is that, she hears that he's going to be traded. I just don't see the owner saying anything like that. And right before this podcast, I just saw where some analyst was saying that he's out of reach. I mean, we already know he's not on the depth chart. So I feel like it's not really kind of hard to figure it out. And then when he dropped the music, because he said he wasn't going to make any music. When he dropped the song, I was like, well, maybe he knows. And it just makes sense for him to keep doing what he loves because it's not going to make a difference anyway, right? That's kind of what I was thinking when I heard the song. I said, oh, okay, because if you go back to the beginning, he was like, no, I'm not making any music. I think it was the cabinet lady was asking him about it, right? And I don't know, it just kind of made me think that maybe he just kind of know, like, what the rest of us kind of see, right? That, they want to do something different and this, that, and the other. Me personally, I feel the only reason they are doing that is to try to humiliate him. I think they don't have anything against Shedeur personally. I just think that it's keeping up with the same rules that this is about your dad. That's what I think. Or this is about you being entitled. Because, see, when you tell one lie, you have to tell another one, right? So how do I go from saying that you're entitled and taking you off the board and boom, asides and tell everybody that's why I took you off the board, and then pushing you down in the draft, and after the 47 call, I send you somewhere that got too many quarterbacks, and then they treating you like you entitled. See, you tell one lie, you got to keep it up. So they gonna treat him like the same thing. Well, we said you was entitled, even though he didn't do anything like that, right? It don't matter. That's the lie they sticking with. That's to me, that's what it is. That's the lie that they sticking with. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Jerry. Jerry said he liked the music. So, and like for me, I just feel like that's what I feel like the music signal. I mean, not the music. That's what I feel like the song that he made. I feel like it signaled that he kind of know. Like I could go back to making my music because I already kind of know, that I'm gonna be the one that they let go. That's one, and then two, the other one is him and Deshaun, right? And I don't know if this person who said they were Deshaun Watson's quarterback coach kind of came out to try to diffuse the situation. That kind of came and went. Nobody cared because we didn't know who that was. I felt like it was meant to be like a distraction, possibly, or somebody just clout chasing, because that didn't make no sense to me. And I didn't even read it. I just heard about it. So, that's just what I think. And you kind of got to look at the fact that two quarterbacks that the NFL have done wrong, both kind of taking him as a little brother for the most part, right? RG3 and Deshaun Watson, who's probably somewhere on his honeymoon, right? So, you got to look at that too. And normally corporations like to put those kind of fires out. That's just kind of how it goes. It's kind of like we don't want to do it. Yeah, we know it's not a good business decision, but we told this lie, so we got to stick with it. That's what I think. Okay, Tina just sent me something. Let's see. It said, this is what I found. Yes, there's a growing belief that Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, genuinely wants Shedeur Sanders to start as soon as he is ready. That's big. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky even described Sanders as a perfect fit for Kevin Stefanski's offense. Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you what I did here, and this has nothing to do with Shedeur regarding the owner. What I heard was the owner is desperate for a star, but see, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, because Baker Mayfield was there and he was successful. And they got rid of him for Deshaun Watson, who has a winning record, and they don't want him to take another snap because of his contract. They don't want nobody else with it, so Deshaun Watson can't go out there and ball out, which is why they rotated Deshaun Watson with two other black quarterbacks in 2023. So if the owner was looking for a star, he has one in Deshaun Watson. The man has a winning record in Cleveland. So when I read that, the actions and the words don't match. The owner is desperate for a star. Is he desperate for a white star? I'll wait. They excited about Flacco. I don't think anybody's excited about Kenny Pickett. I don't think the veterans want Kenny Pickett to be their starter because they already know, right? The veterans know. I guess we could talk about it now. The veterans know. I'm gonna take that pen out that I put in the last video. See, the veterans already know, right? Who the players are. They know that Flacco played in 2023 and was successful. He just is part-time. They know that. That's why they're okay with Flacco starting, because when he played towards the end, Flacco was not available for the most critical part of the season. Now, notice they say they want Flacco to start. They didn't say who they wanted to close out. See, the suggestion is that Flacco starts. Common sense is Shedeur can start. But since I don't know what Cleveland O-line looks like, y'all know I want to see what that O-line do. Common sense says Flacco start, and if he can make it to 7 games, because they're probably just going to pass the ball off to Quinshon Judkins. Does anybody know if Quinshon Judkins signed his contract? Can somebody look that up? Has Quinshon Judkins signed his contract? Because he is one of the 39 holdouts. So they got 2 running backs in this draft. They already had 2 running backs before. I already told y'all that the strategy was a run game, right? Which is why, again, they're not going to gravitate towards Shedeur, because that's not who he is. He's an air raid passer. So, common sense, start with Flacco and hand it off to Shedeur to close. But see, there are people that want Flacco to close and Shedeur to start. Because why? They're like, well, Shedeur's young, he can start, and Flacco can close, but he probably not gonna make it all the way to the end. If Flacco take a hit like he did in 2023, which is a similar hit, maybe with a little less intensity that Pat Mahomes took in the Super Bowl, he's not gonna make it. He's 2 years older than he was in 2023. It does matter. The players are getting younger and younger, right? So if somebody come at him the way Myles Garrett was getting ready to go full steam ahead to Dylan Gabriel, it ain't gonna work. A Myles Garrett type hit on somebody with the size and frame of Myles Garrett, like a full speed on hit trying to sack the quarterback on Flacco, no, that's not working. That's not working, and that guarantees that Shedeur is going to get in. That's why Cleveland wants Pickett to start to save Flacco for as late as possible. That way, they only have to weave in Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel in just a few games, right? So I'm with the veterans. I think the veterans also know they don't have an O-line. They could, but it's too early to tell because there's a new group of guys coming in. None of them are starters, right? All of them are veterans, but none have been starters. So they could be looking out for Shedeur and be like, look, just put Flacco in. No, don't put Kenny Pickett in. Just put Flacco in. What that does is it moves Cleveland off their 2023 strategy. Let Flacco play towards the end. See, the players know Flacco probably ain't gonna make it to the end. Don't put him back on the end and then put the critical games in the hands of somebody that's not ready. Because that's what happened in 2023. That's exactly what happened in 2023. So I'm good with Shedeur not starting. I'm not good with Shedeur wasting away on the bench. I think he needs to play. I think Flacco plays 7 games, and Shedeur, plays the rest. That's just how I feel. Now, Cleveland is probably gonna do what they want to do, meaning they're gonna start Kenny Pickett. They're gonna weave in Dylan Gabriel. They might let Shedeur take a few snaps in the preseason. See, Mary Cabot kind of already told you what they was gonna do. She said it. Oh, I think you'll see a lot of Dylan and Gabriel. No, she said you'll see a lot of Dylan and Shedeur in the preseason, but not the regular season. See, people are overlooking the fact about Dylan. They ain't too keen on him either. If they talking about getting a quarterback next year, Shedeur is not the only quarterback that's not their future. If they talking about getting a franchise quarterback, what the hell is Dylan? Anybody care to answer? If Cleveland is talking about getting a franchise quarterback next year, and Cabe, what's his name? Cabe, right? And his agent's probably hard at work trying to make sure that don't happen. What does that make Dylan? See, people want to pit Shedeur against Dylan. You can't pit them two against each other. Neither one of them are the solution at quarterback for Cleveland, which is why I said just send Shedeur on his way, and he could just start getting ready for his next team. He might not be able to start because if they cut him late, he's not going to have time to learn the playbook. They know that. And that is what keeps Shedeur out of reach for QB1. Hold him, pretend there's this competition, which you should not be trying to figure out who your quarterback is. But that's what Cleveland is going to do. And they already know it's not Shedeur. Now, all of this about the owner, if the owner was desperate for a star, like they say, Shedeur will be wearing his number 2 right now. They will be trying to take advantage of that. They wouldn't be trying to bench Shedeur with a number 12 jersey on. They will make sure that legacy carries on into the NFL and they could capitalize off of it financially. They're not even trying to do that. That tells you they're not making business decisions. But what Cleveland has proven is they are capable of weaponizing instability for 11 games and turning it over to Flacco, who they think can close, but he has proven that he's not. He can't do it. Quinshon Judkins has not signed his contract. And see, that's the problem. Are they talking about that? No, they want to talk about Shedeur. Shedeur signed his contract. But they don't want to tell you Quinshon Judkins has not signed his contract. I don't know what these guys, the 39 of them, I'm proud of them. I don't know what the strategy is here. I don't know. Maybe they're going to go back to school. I don't know what they're going to do. Hey, Marlon, how you doing? You're right. Something is not adding up in Cleveland. It says, let me move this out the way. It says, adding up in Cleveland. Why are they trying? What are they trying to accomplish? Why can't they get the QB1 position right? Yeah, because they're not trying to. See, Andrew Berry's job, from where I sit, appears to be to get players for pennies on the dollar, just to keep this thing going. We're not taking nobody seriously. We're going to shuffle you in, shuffle you out. Do you hear them really talking about Jerry Jeudy? It wouldn't surprise me if he gone next year. They were supposed to get a wide receiver. They needed two things in the draft that they did not get. We talked about that. The main ingredients. They got a bunch of sides. They did not get a wide receiver that they needed, and they did not get what? An O-line. They didn't even get their franchise quarterback. So now they're going to shift the franchise quarterback to next year, and that's why Cleveland fans are triggered. I want to say they're upset. They're triggered. They're triggered because why? You just got Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur, and now you want to get rid of them and get somebody else. They see the carousel, the revolving doors just spinning. That means the Cleveland fans need to stand up and speak out. Stay home. You got to go to the game. There's no reason. You have not seen anything. The Cleveland fan base has not been shown any sign of progress. All they see is more instability. More instability at the quarterback position. We drafted 2 running backs. One for sure had signed his contract. We didn't get a wide receiver. We didn't get no O-lineman. What the hell do we have? What do we have? You want to get rid of the 2 quarterbacks that we have. You got the best quarterback in the draft, lightning in a bottle, Shedeur Sanders. See, the NFL loves to get what they call lightning in a bottle. That's where you get a real good quarterback for cheap. That's lightning in a bottle. That's what they got in Shedeur, and they act like they don't want that either. And that's how you know this is not about winning. Cleveland has the star that they said the owner wanted. I think the only reason people think the owner want to get Shedeur is because they think the owner voluntarily decided to draft Shedeur after being pushed down to 144. The owner is the reason that the Browns pivoted away from Shedeur. See, what's little talked about is Shedeur was going to be the franchise quarterback at the number 2 pick until the owner came out and said, what? We still got Deshaun Watson. You been had Deshaun Watson. You going to have Deshaun Watson next year, and you still trying to get your franchise quarterback. See, the same talking points Cleveland had in this draft, 2025, with Shedeur. They trying to spark up with Lenore Sellers, maybe Cade. They know they're not getting Arch Manning. He not even coming out of school. Cleveland has fumbled the franchise quarterback before. They got Quinshon, what's his name? Deshaun Kaiser was their franchise QB out the second round. See, Cleveland knows how to fumble intentionally. What was the goal? To get your franchise QB out the second round and take Myles Garrett with your pick in the first. What is the point of that? Why is Cleveland constantly making the number 1 pick a 9 QB? Because of the trend as to who's coming out in the first round for the last few years. Black quarterbacks. That is exactly why. They drafted Mason Graham, who came and showed up unprepared, out of shape, instead of their franchise QB. They still had to pay the money, right? Right. But they didn't want to give it to Shedeur. But they wanted to give it to Mason Graham. Mason Graham wasn't even a priority. They needed a wide receiver. Why did they give it to a wide receiver? Because he probably black. Why they ain't give it to a running back? Because they don't value running backs like that. In fact, I think I heard somebody on ESPN say no running back should go in the first round, the top 10 or the first round at all, because they don't value the position like that. So why would Cleveland, who is continuously at the bottom, guaranteed to get a top 5 pick, getting anybody other than a quarterback with those picks, but screwing off the quarterbacks that they do get? Deshaun Kaiser made him his franchise QB in the second round, number 53, which is a developmental QB. You don't take number 53 and make him your starter. You think Cleveland don't know that? But they took Myles Garrett, so maybe people will say, oh, that's okay. No, it's not. You were supposed to get a quarterback with that pick, but see, they didn't want to do that. But now they're ready. Why? Because next year, the first 3 quarterbacks in the draft are white, except for Lenore Sellers. Let's see how they sidestep that. So Cleveland fans have their feathers ruffled. They're likely triggered because they're like, here we go again. You trying to get rid of Dillon and Shedeur. And Stefanski is basically sending the message, no. We not trying. No, Dillon is my pick. So what you going to do with Dillon if you get Lenore Sellers? What you going to do with Dillon if you get Cade from Clemson? So Dillon is your backup quarterback of the future. That's what you drafted him for. So why is Shedeur competing with him? Can anybody answer that question? Cleveland seems like they're afraid to win. See, I think Cleveland is the team that was designated a dumpster fire. I think out of the 32 teams, if you look at teams that are consistently at the bottom, they have one thing in common when it comes to the quarterback position. And with those 4 teams consistently at the bottom, going first, second, third, fourth, or fifth, you can guarantee that the high numbers of black quarterbacks that were coming out in the draft will end up with one of them and not be successful. Jaden Daniels was supposed to be a bust because he went to Washington. See, that Washington didn't turn out how people thought it would. See, they just knew he was going to fail. People already knew Caleb Williams was going to fail in Chicago because Justin Fields did. Cleveland has been a revolving door for quarterbacks, period. But then when you isolate and look at the black quarterbacks, ooh, Deshaun Kaiser's case speaks volume. Getting Deshaun Watson, getting rid of Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson, and trashing Deshaun Watson every single chance you get, using him as a scapegoat to block Shedeur. It's crazy. It shows why Cleveland, who's consistently been at the bottom for years, decided to start drafting other positions, non-quarterback positions first, because they don't want somebody to be their quarterback. So I don't see Haslam, the person that is made them pivot away and told us publicly from Shedeur, saving Shedeur. What I see is somebody else picking up a device and texting about. That's what I see behind the scenes. So I know you're trying to cut somebody, but I know who you're not going to cut. So what do we do? Keep him on the bench? Well, if that's what you got to do, but that's who you're not going to cut. Yeah, I could see that happen. Right? They probably don't. But considering who we talking about, sure, why not? Why not? I'm like, there's no loyalty there. There's no loyalty. It said they're going to ruin whoever, right? That's the whole point of it. They're going to ruin whoever. So they strategic about who they get. I got Myles Garrett in the first round instead of my franchise QB. I got a franchise QB out the second round. That is not incompetent. Nor was it incompetent when they let him go 0-15. It proves black players can't be quarterbacks. See, we gave him the chance. We made him our franchise QB. and he failed. That's justification. It's false, but that's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. That's why they hired Shedeur from QB1 reps, because they know. See, the league knows they have to answer to the fan. It's already happened in Washington. It already happened in North Carolina. It already happened in Tampa Bay. All the teams I just mentioned got better because of new ownership. How long before New York, Cleveland, and the Saints are made or held accountable? With those teams drafting last and have the same bias against black NFL quarterbacks, it ensures that these black quarterbacks will touch one of these teams. Except for New York. Except for New York. Except for New York. Maybe if I draft him and make him a backup, nobody will care or whatever, right? So when I saw Shedeur put the song out, it made me think, oh, maybe he knows, right? And then I remembered that Drake, did this. And that surprised me because, hell, I didn't even get it at first. Admittedly, I didn't get it. I said, oh, hell, he right there in Toronto. I'm like, well, maybe people know that that's what's going to happen because of what I think is true. You're not keeping Deshaun and Shedeur. You're not doing that. See, at first you thought that's what you wanted to do. But see, now that these two talk and you don't want that, one of y'all got to go. And I don't see it being Deshaun because he would have been gone already. They can't even move Trevor Lawrence because their contracts are prohibitive. Hell, they can't even move Kirk Cousins because his contract is prohibited. So essentially, these teams have trapped themselves with these mid quarterbacks that are not good. Trevor Lawrence stuck down there with a no trade clause until 2029 or 2030 because his contract is prohibited. He can't move it. It's too big. Deshaun Watson can't move his contract either. So he got to stay right there. But I can move Shedeur's. It's only $4 million. Now, where am I going to move him to? Because it can't be Pittsburgh, even though it should be. Because Pittsburgh has now realized, I don't think we're going to win nothing with Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be a crazy 8-6 season or something, they said. They like, ain't nothing going to happen. Put it in perspective. They went to the playoffs last year with Russ. So now Pittsburgh fans, like Cleveland fans, need to band together and stay home. Because we went to the playoffs with Russ. Y'all forced him out of here. And you made sure we got Aaron Rodgers. And you let Aaron Rodgers block Shedeur. So it's not about winning. It's not about winning. Hey, Tina, how you doing? I was looking at it. Thank you. The list of movies to watch. Oh, yeah. Let me share that. So, guys, it's just one of those things that it's up to the fans. I think we have ruled out every other option that's possible. I think it's obvious if the fans don't hold these teams accountable that nobody is. All right, so I'm sharing these movies Tina said for us to watch. Okay, so let me move it back. All right, so it said, hey, what she said, sports, I like Jason Straham's The Beekeeper and A Working Man on Amazon Prime. Let me know if y'all watched either one of them. Drop the name of the movie if you watched it. And if you want to rate it 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5, let me know. Or just say it was good. Viola Davis, G20. Now, what is that one about? G20. I haven't seen that one. And Denzel Washington, all the Equalizer movies. Yep, I was thinking of watching Equalizer 2. Hulu. These are a few to start with. Okay, so I'm sharing the list of movies that if some of y'all want to watch. Tina said, one of our members, Tina, shared this list of movies. Let me know if you've seen any of them or if you know what they're about. I think the G21 intrigues me because I haven't heard about them. So y'all let me know. So Blue Moon said, get over it. You ain't going into that new stadium. Yeah, I think they are. I think they got the money for it too. And something about the Senate had to do with it. I'm like, bro, that's just crazy. is exposing the truth. That's a bad example. Let's not disrespect. Who disrespected people? Not exposing the truth. It says, Amber says they shouldn't be able to even have high draft picks every year. Right. See, that's what I'm saying. At some point, it's negligence. At this point, it's negligence, right? There's been enough history from these teams with their black quarterbacks to see how they move. I mean, if I can sit out here and point out what the Giants, the Saints, and for sure the Cleveland Browns have in common, all you got to do is look at the performance, look at the record. See, Cleveland has proven that they gonna do whatever it takes. They had 3 black quarterbacks, which on the surface seems good, right? But when you make all 3 of them rotate, that's instability. That's weaponizing instability. And Cleveland has proven that they are willing for optics to draft 3 and have on their roster 3 black quarterbacks. But unbeknownst to you, rotating the 3 of them through 11 games and amassing a winning record and handing it over to Joe Flacco is exactly why they have 3 rotating rather than drafting 1 in the first round as their franchise QB. Optics. Oh, you don't think I'm racist? I got 3 black quarterbacks in rotation. Yes, you're weaponizing instability. And you made the 3 of them rotate so you didn't have to name 1 the starter. See, I can see what they're doing. And I think other people can too. So to me, they're going to try to run it back. And all they did was play Shedeur. Make him think that they were interested in him. That's why people were asking the Browns. Who remembers the Browns being asked by other media, why are you interviewing quarterbacks? They met with Jalen Milroe, they met with Shedeur, and they met with Cam. People said, y'all don't even have the money to draft a quarterback at the number 2 spot. They were told this point blank period, and they came back and justified it and said because Deshaun Watson got injured. They went through all of that dog and pony show to prove that they could get a franchise QB that they have money to shop with, only to on March 31st, remember they had Deshaun Watson. They knew. See, to me, that's fraud. That's why I said Shedeur can get out his contract. That is fraud. You basically were being held your feet to the fire. People were pointing out, you can't even afford a quarterback. You got Deshaun Watson contract. It's too prohibitive. I did videos on it. I'm talking about it on video. They came back and said, yes, we can. His injury is covered by insurance, which is why I know he's not playing this year. Even though he's showing them he's healthy, he's letting us know this is them, not me. They don't want me to play. They committed fraud where Shedeur was concerned. They are no different than the Tinder swindler. What do confidence artists do? They use the connections that they have to get to you to make you believe that they are interested in you. And when they get what they want, they're going to drop you like a bad habit. What they wanted was to reel him in. What they wanted was for Shedeur to believe that they were interested in him. And he did. And then on March 31st, they dropped him like a bad habit. They were never going to draft him. And when they got called on it, they even proved, yes, we have money to shop. But then on March 31st, we still have Deshaun Watson. That's fraud. You knew that because people asked you to prove how you was going to get him. See, all the communication Shedeur has with the Browns, all of the meetings that they've had with Shedeur proves that they were pre-drafting with him extensively. Plus, they made it known publicly. And they were challenged publicly on why they were even interviewing any quarterbacks and have the money. And publicly, they answered the question. They also publicly said Coach Prime wasn't a problem. They publicly put it on the record that they wanted to get Shedeur. They had the media believing they were getting Shedeur with the number 2 pick. Fraud. Cleveland committed fraud. It's documented. You don't even need discovery to prove it. They committed fraud. They made him believe. They set him up to fail. They made him believe they was going to take him at number 2. You know who else committed fraud? The New York Giants. The New York Giants have never had a black starting quarterback, and they still don't want one now. They were never going to draft Shedeur. I wonder how much communication there is between the New York Giants and the Cleveland Browns about Shedeur. Y'all think those two organizations talk? Do y'all think those two organizations talk? All you have to do is look at the pattern of drafting for both the Giants, the Cleveland Browns, and the Saints. Cam Jordan came out and said it. He said the Saints have not drafted a quarterback in the first round since Arch Manning. He said that's how he knew they were not going to take Shedeur. Now, I can't say the Saints committed fraud because I don't know if they told him anything. I know that they met him at the combine, but I also saw an article right after that said that they're just doing his due diligence because, no, it said the Saints are doing their due diligence because Shedeur is a number 1, a top prospect in the first round. So they just met with him on general principle. So the media dismissed that right away. What y'all think the media don't know what was going on? Yeah, they knew what was going on. That's why they were questioning the Browns on why the hell you talking to Shedeur, Cam, and Milroe. You ain't got no money. And they said, no, we got money. We got money. Deshaun Watson injury is covered by insurance. So why did you use Deshaun Watson as a scapegoat to say that you remembered you had Deshaun Watson? That means you already knew that. And you was just reeling Shedeur in. That's fraud. Shedeur can get out of his contract. That's fraud. They committed fraud. And the Giants were pretending for 2 years. They were pretending for 2 years to be interested in Shedeur because they knew in 2024, after the Super Bowl, they knew who was coming out of school. They knew. Just like I knew what 2025 was. They have never had a black starting quarterback. They were never going to draft Shedeur. But Cleveland committed the bigger fraud. I never believed that the Giants were drafting Shedeur. I said that the media was putting that out there because they've never had a black starting quarterback. That's a problem in itself. But they also were the last franchise to have a black quarterback, period. So it tells you what their problem is. But see, Cleveland want to pretend like that's not their problem. The Saints, Cleveland, and the Giants have the same problem. And guess who else? Guess what other team rounds out the 4th team consistently at the bottom that has the same problem with black quarterbacks, bias against black quarterbacks? Can you guess who the 4th team is? I'll give you a hint. Air McNair, the Tennessee Titans. Yep. That's why all 4 teams at the bottom can manipulate the draft. They can stand down pat and make a decision. They can all say, we're not taking this quarterback and he can fall to number 5 or he could go somewhere else. The Titans did not want Cam. And what are they already starting to do? Put out narratives about him being difficult. Shedeur can get out of his contract because the Cleveland Browns committed fraud. The moment the connection is confirmed between the guy who tried to publicly humiliate Shedeur Sanders, pretending to be the general manager of what franchise? The Saints. Is the boyfriend. He was at the time the boyfriend of the daughter of the general manager of the New York Giants. It is on like popcorn. And that could be why the Cleveland Browns are trying to cut Shedeur and no other team is going to get him, because the faster he's dismissed from the league, they think it's less probability for a legal case. The more Shedeur is in the NFL and on anybody's roster in any capacity, we're going to talk about this. But they think it's going to go away. See, I see the moment they dismiss him, somebody going to sue. They damned if they do. They damned if they don't. But I can see them being arrogant and thinking, let's just get rid of him so we can stop talking about this. Because the more he around, they're going to talk about the connection in New York. Yep, they sure are. And the prank. Yep, they sure are. They sure are. When you tell one lie, you have to tell another one. Cleveland committed fraud where Shedeur is concerned. Prove me wrong. It's documented. It is documented. Everything. They went through so much trouble to make it public that they were pre-drafted extensively with Shedeur. They don't even want to mention it right now. They don't even want to mention it. They want to make you think they met Shedeur when they drafted him number 144. Because it raises questions. Well, if you was going to get him at number 2, why didn't you get him? Fraud, 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 fraud. They committed fraud. Yep. Just like when you get married. If you get married and you found out there was fraud under the pretense of you getting married, you can have your marriage annulled, and it don't matter how long you were married. If fraud was involved, it don't matter how long you were married. You could be married for 10 years. You can have that wedding annulled. That's how it goes. Fraud. Because fraud is illegal. That's why they weren't happy when they had to take Shedeur. And they had to take Shedeur. See, Seattle don't have 4 quarterbacks. They weren't going to send Shedeur what Milroe is. I mean, they could have if you look at how they like to move, right? But they have an empty roster space. So chances are going to make the roster if they have a depth chart space. See, Cleveland didn't have no space. Cleveland at the time had already signed Flacco. They already had Pickett. They knew they was getting Dillon, and they already had Deshaun. You really think they was going to always get 5 quarterbacks? No. So when did they pivot from Shedeur to Dillon? That's the question. I know when they pivoted from Shedeur, I know they met with Shedeur publicly, but they met with Dillon privately. That's already been discussed in an interview, and it's recorded. I think I have the recording. Cleveland committed fraud to reel Shedeur in, and now they stuck with him. So he should walk around every day in Cleveland knowing that God loves him, because that's how that happened. Oh, you want to play? All right. They are stuck with him because no other team can trade for him. He can't just go nowhere else. They have to sit down and re-strategize on where it is he could go. He can't go to Pittsburgh, because if he go to Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin gonna let him play. Then again, he could go to Tampa Bay, and they might be, come on out here and play. See, you have to have specific people to work with when you plot and scheme. The fact that the media was asking the Cleveland Browns, well, why are y'all interviewing? That tell you that they didn't know. That's why the media kept talking about the Giants. See, they knew about that. They ain't know about this. Because you couldn't let a lot of people know about this, but they did. They did. And they were happy to tell you. Oh, yeah, we pre-draft with Shedeur extensively. We know who he is. Who said it first? Not Andrew Berry. Kevin Stefanski said it first. To me, Kevin Stefanski was throwing Andrew Berry under the bus. That's what it looked like to me. Kevin Stefanski's contract is signed. In 2024, it said that they both got new contracts. I don't know how long Kevin Stefanski's contract is, but I get the feeling that Andrew Berry's contract might be a little shorter, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I know Cleveland committed fraud where Shedeur's concerned, and they probably out there trying to dump a cloud, and you can. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Fraud. So, in my opinion, Shedeur should hold his head up high. God kicked that door open for him. Cleveland had to take Shedeur. They absolutely had no choice in the matter. They can't get rid of him without putting him on waivers. If they put him on waivers, somebody got 24 hours to claim him. If nobody claims him in 24 hours, he's free. And then another team could scoop in, like Jacksonville, and sign him with a new contract. Now, the NFL itself could make this right and go down that path. But I don't know. Somebody in the spirit of Isaac Newsom, might come along and do the exact thing. And they're not supposed to. But what the hell they gonna do? We want to win. Then again, nobody could get him. He could go to Canada. And then the litigation can take place and just strengthen the case that's already out there. Because that's what it's gonna do. It's because there's a pattern of behavior here. There's a pattern of behavior in Cleveland. See, Cleveland think they slick by rotating 3 quarterbacks that are black, having 3 on the roster, but rotating them so you don't name one of them. One of them your starter, and you take Joe Flacco off the practice squad. Now there's a quarterback out here right now who's saying they was lied to or misled by the Falcons. Now this is the other side of the coin. All right. Normally we talk about the black quarterbacks and how dirty they get done, right? How they undervalue, which means they pay less. You know, how they get held back, maybe QB2 or QB1, or they sacked excessively, yada, yada, yada. We talk about that. Well, today I have a recording from a podcast that talks about the other side. What happens when the black quarterback is devalued and the white quarterback that they choose and they overpay, underperforms? Let's talk about that. So, Kirk Cousins is going around, according to the Dan Le Batard show, and telling people, them in particular, that he was misled by the Falcons. That if he knew that the Falcons were going to draft a quarterback so high, meaning the first round, draft a first round QB, he would have stayed in Minnesota. I'm like, what? Hold on a minute. You thought you had a choice? The Minnesota Vikings have made it 100% clear, and I don't know who the hell JJ McCarthy is related to, but they have made it clear that even though JJ McCarthy has absolutely not 1 millisecond of NFL film on him, that they are willing to hand him the keys in year 2 with no film to lead their franchise. So much so that Sam Darnold is now in Seattle, and he took them to a good record last year, just like Geno Smith did, who got booted out to the Raiders to block Shedeur. Understand that, right? So Kirk Cousins is upset that he got overpaid and was supposed to be, QB1, but failed. Now his contract is too prohibitive to move, so he has to sit behind QB1 that was drafted last year. See, this is desperation. See, this is what desperation looked like last year. I draft Michael Penix number 9 overall in the first round, which means he's inherent QB1. But then I get Kirk Cousins and overpay him at the age of 36 after an Achilles injury and have him to come down. And it's said that the owner admits to saying he wanted Kirk Cousins. So he one-upped the coach and basically told the coach, who was also new himself and wanted to keep his job, I'm going to get Kirk Cousins, but you could decide who's going to start. So he started Kirk Cousins because he felt like he was being told what to do indirectly, right? This is what desperation looks like. So, and I mean desperation to preserve whiteness at the QB1 position, to make sure that white quarterbacks are not the minority at starting positions. That's what we're talking about. That's the desperation. So I leapfrog over a first round pick who was supposed to be inherent QB1. I get a 36-year-old coming off of an Achilles injury, and I overpay him an ungodly amount of money. And I tell my new black coach, who I probably got my optics because I'm in Atlanta, I want Kirk Cousins. I let you draft Michael Penix Jr., but I want Kirk Cousins. That you follow me, right? They let him get who he wanted. But then the owner got who he wanted. And then indirectly told the coach who to start by saying, but I'm going to let you decide who to start. So basically the owner was bucking his own coach. I hired you maybe because you black, because this is the city of Atlanta. Okay? But ultimately I make the decisions here. So I'm going to go out here and get Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I'm going to overpay him. And And I'm gonna give you an ultimatum and let you start who you think you ought to start. Which means I'm gonna put your job on the line, right? And then what happened? The fans got pissed. See, Atlanta don't play. One thing about Atlanta, they don't play about the Falcons. And when it got ugly, they sent in Michael Penix Jr. to save the day. And when they lost that game, I think it was a playoff game, and they lost or something like that, the first thing, the next morning, the Falcons organization, GM, coach, this, that, and the other did, PR, went on to the news or whatever you call it, wherever they make these announcements, and told us who the hell the damn starter was going to be next year. If they didn't do that, they weren't going to buy no tickets. Now, there was going to be some diehards that's what they live and they die for. That was not working. These people were ready to take kerosene to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's not even owned by the Falcons. They're not playing. See, that's where Cleveland need to get to. But they're not there. And I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what the hell the difference is. But Cleveland is way worse off than Atlanta. And that ain't Atlanta's first time doing something like that, right? When they had the Matt Ryan era and the Julio Jones, the Falcons paid Matt Ryan all this money. But he threw the ball to his wide receiver one. They didn't want to pay him. Oh, that was a problem. See, maybe that's why this move, this stunt with Michael Penix Jr., maybe that's why that was it for Atlanta, right? And then there's the Saints. I think the Saints fans know that the ownership in New Orleans is inept. They know that the owner actually died and left the team to his wife, and she running it in the ground. And it's not because she's a woman. It's just because her politics, right? Her politics align with that of like the New York Giants. And it's driving the team the same way, to making decisions, spending all this money on underperforming and not caring about winning. Because I got other things that I make money off of. Because the Saints used to be winning. They still trying to ride off the Archie Manning legacy. They still trying to ride off the Drew Brees legacy. And in my opinion, they saving their first round pick for I don't know who. They just don't want to move on past Archie Manning, because that was the last time they had a first quarterback in the first round. That was the 70s. That's where the Saints are stuck. But see, they not pretending. They not pretending. See, the Browns are. They got a black GM, so you'll believe it. They had 3 black quarterbacks, so you'll believe it. They pulled a fast one. They didn't just have Joe Flacco on the active roster. He was on the practice squad. They had 3 quarterbacks, one of them thinking they gonna emerge as the starter. So technically they compete against each other for playing time. And then they pulled Flacco, even though there was a winning record of 7-4. They pulled Flacco off the practice squad. That is a slap in the face. And they only did that because they didn't want one of the guys playing the majority of the game, so they will be named the starter. So Kirk Cousins is on the flip side. We hearing from him about how he feel about being what he said is misled. Like Will Levis. People said he looked defeated when they had their first practice where the vets were there. They said he looked so defeated. And you know what I was thinking to myself? He not defeated. He being forced into dysfunction. He know he failed. And they using him to block Cam and make Cam compete and hold him back from the inherent QB1 position. See, they got away with it with Michael Penix Jr., but karma showed up at the end of the season. So they're not new to this. They desperate. They desperate. And that's what it is. And I hate to say it, but that's all it is. This is about preservation of whiteness at QB1. And now the white quarterbacks that are being used in these plots And out. They are paid handsomely. See, the Falcons probably figured they knew they overpaid Kirk Cousins. But why do people overpay you sometimes when they doing something, when y'all doing something you ain't got no business? So you shut the hell up. So you shut the hell up. You supposed to take this money and shut up while I block him and you don't tell nobody. But see, Kirk Cousins is not happy in QB2 behind Michael Penix Jr. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out why he upset because he failed. But see, that's what happens when you let entitled individuals run amok. That's what happens. See, they let Kirk Cousins run around. And every time they overpay these people, do you know what happens? They believe I'm good. They not overpaying you because you good. That's what they think. See, Kirk Cousins think he got paid all that money out of Minnesota because he's good. They knew they was gambling, rolled the dice, and lost. 36 came off of an Achilles injury. Duh. Joe Flacco. They knew they was rolling the dice. They lost. And they had no choice but to start Michael Penix Jr. this year. How do you think that conversation went? Now remember, the owner of the Falcons wanted Kirk Cousins. Who had the last say so in that conversation? Do you think the owner went to the GM and said, okay, well, you know what, let's try it your way because you tried it my way. I wanted Kirk Cousins and now it didn't work. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is now you're starting to see Tyler Shaw holding out for his contract. Why? Because he thought he was good. Mason Graham showing up unprepared. Why? Because he thought he was good because you picked him first. They don't see the pattern. I see it. They have no reason to be better than they are because you keep overpaying them more than you're paying black people. You're undervaluing black people and overpaying white people. So the white people think, oh, we good. I ain't got to do nothing. I ain't got to go to practice. I ain't got to show up in shape. That's the message you're sending. So now Kirk Cousins thinks he can try to force his way out of Atlanta. I'm like, so you really thought they got you because you was good? No, they brought you here to block the guy you sitting behind, and it backfired. And unless you're gonna tell us some stuff that we don't know, you might want to just be quiet. I'm sure some guarantees somewhere that they probably say they'll void in the future if you do what? See, this is starting to backfire, but it's not backfiring out of the mouths of the black quarterback. Now it's the white quarterbacks that are being used in these plots. Tyler Shaw wants a guaranteed contract because he good. You drafted me the second round. You gave number 1 and number 2 guaranteed money, so I'm gonna need that money. And they like, this ain't what we drafted you for. Well, tell him that. I only drafted you so I don't have to get Shedeur or Miro. I bet he'll never believe it. He'll never believe it. But that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And now that's who's starting to unravel and get bothered. See, the black quarterback's been going through this so long, they know how to, like Michael Penix Jr., you would have never known that he would have possibly have been bothered by any of this. They have been going through this for so long. They know how to keep it pushing with a smile. Whether they smile or not, they know how to keep it pushing. You never heard Jalen Hurts one time be upset about anything. Not even when his coach was yelling at him. You didn't even see Russ act out when his coach was yelling at him or disrespecting him. The fans was more upset about it. We see Shedeur keeping it together. When he's around there or whatever. Right? But now they done got themselves in a pickle. Because see, Kirk Cousins said he was misled. Actually, they say they lied. They called him a liar. So Kirk Cousins is unhappy because now, see, he wanted out of Atlanta, but the contract, I can't do nothing about it. We gave you too much money. You were supposed to just, you supposed to be good, but you're not. See, that's what this is. Remember I told y'all that was gonna start. See, but it's not starting with the black quarterbacks. They've been going through this too long. They know what to do. It's the white quarterbacks, the ones they are using to block the black quarterbacks. That's why he said he was misled. And when he said, well, if I would have known that they was gonna draft a quarterback so high, meaning the first round, I would have stayed in Minnesota. You ain't had a choice. You ain't had a choice. I'm not sure that Sam Darnold wanted to leave Minnesota. But what I do know is there were 3 white quarterbacks in Minnesota, and they sent Daniel Jones to Indianapolis to compete with Anthony Richardson. And they sent Sam Darnold, who was QB1, to Seattle and paid him $100 million. But they booted out Geno Smith and sent him to Vegas to block Shedeur. And said they didn't even want to part ways with Geno Smith because Sam Darnold and Geno Smith both had good records in their current teams, just like Russell Wilson. And all 3 of them had to move. And Kirk Cousins think he was going to have the choice to stay in Minnesota. And now he sees he absolutely has no choice because he can't move himself. Nobody's asking him anything. You have to be QB2 behind Michael Penix Jr. And he's saying, I didn't sign up for this. Let's see what happens with Tyler Shaw's contract. Let's see if out of the 39 people holding out, Travis was the only one that got his contract signed, not Tyler Shaw. Let's see if he's the next one to get his contract signed. That's interesting, isn't it? So see, the unexpected, once again, is ruling the day. See, it was unexpected that Kirk Cousins would fail. I don't know why. It is also unexpected that he's out here talking, saying he was misled or lied to. Pick one. Pick one. It's unexpected that Tyler Shaw would not sign his contract. It was unexpected Mason Graham would show up out of shape. In fact, they don't even talk about Mason Graham. They talk about their second round pick, Carson Schwarzenegger. That's interesting. So, I guess we just gonna leave it right here. And we gonna wait until another quarterback who's used to block another quarterback wants to tell their story. Maybe Will Levis want to talk because they said he looked defeated. I'm like, he don't look defeated. He looked forced. He looked like, okay, y'all, I don't want to be in this situation. See, not everybody want to be used and pimped out like that. Not everybody want to be used to block a black man from progress. Everybody don't want to be a part of that. And sometimes I'm not sure if they know what they signing up for or not. But in some respects, I think they do. Right? Like they already said it's dysfunctional to have Will Levis in Tennessee after he already failed. It's just as dysfunctional have Daniel Jones go compete with Anthony Richardson. Now Anthony Richardson ends up hurt. There's no competition anymore. He got to move aside, and now Daniel Jones got to produce. They gave him a 1-year contract for $14 million. Make it do what it do. So there we go. So, these are the situations, these are the situations that that are happening. Yes, it's fraud. That is fraud. The next couple of weeks, we have 6 weeks until Georgia Tech. That means we have 2.5 weeks until July 18th, the day the rookies have to report. Let's see. Hold on one second. How many days until Cleveland Brown training camp starts? 16 days. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in 16, 17 days. So we'll keep y'all posted. We'll be back on our late nights. This is where we get to talk. This is where I feel like we just get to talk and exchange information because I just feel like, it's a lot happening. And it's happening at the quarterback position because this is where talent is supposed to matter. See, in those green rooms where they only have a spackle or melanin, see, they can control that because we don't see their hiring process. We just had an opportunity to see the green rooms and go, oh, wow. Because we didn't know that, right? Because we don't see those people. But now that we see it, and then we looking at the quarterback situation, we starting to see a pattern overall, right? We starting to see a pattern overall. You put that with the lawsuit violating Black NFL players' civil rights in 2021 and the whole race norming, and it shows you it's alive and well. That's what it's showing you. And it's showing you that race norming doesn't just pertain to concussions. It doesn't just pertain to not wanting all Black players with lower cognitive functioning. It shows you how the NFL feels about the quarterback position, and they still are not accepting of a majority of the starting quarterbacks to being Black. And it shows you in their hiring practices how they feel about Black people, because they have only a spackle. And the people that you did see was off to the sides, except for Barry and maybe somebody in Minnesota, who's African, by the way. So we'll be back to continue this conversation. I can't wait to find out more about Kirk Cousins' situation. I recorded it because I didn't have time to look at it at the moment. We might share it. We might share it so y'all can hear what some of the other people were saying about it. Because one guy was saying, speaking from the Kirk Cousins said he was misled. Another guy said he was lied to. I was like, oh, okay. So maybe we'll get into that. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that. But it's a lot happening with these quarterbacks concerned. And I knew this year would be the year. But things are, karma is starting to take effect. The unexpected is starting to take effect. The unexpected took place in the draft. They did not expect for Shedeur to be forced to Cleveland like they did. Nobody trades 2 picks in the same round to get somebody in the same round. And then that person is also the person who probably still to this day is listed as a first round draft pick by the NFL itself on their own website. Sells the most jerseys in the draft. And then the media tries to harass him with microaggressions. And then they realize he has a fan base. See, so every time they try something with Shedeur, they lose. And they keep trying to figure out what to do to hide him. But it's not going to happen. And even Shedeur thanked his aunties because he realized their voices came together collectively with other fans in support of him. That's huge. You don't see that happening with nobody else. So trying to take Shedeur down is not easy. And that's what they're trying to do. And it's not going to be as simple as cutting him because they committed fraud. Yes, they did. All right, y'all, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back tomorrow. Turn your notifications on. This was the perfect, I don't know, I only came on yesterday to test out some functionality, and this is turning into a wonderful podcast series. So thank y'all for joining late nights. We can keep the conversation going in the chat because there are a lot of comments here. And I appreciate everybody and giving their input and everything tonight. But yeah, we'll have to continue this tomorrow. Amber say the Browns rookies off until 7/18. Yep. So they'll be back. 16 days. So, all right, y'all. Well, I guess I'll talk to y'all later. Thank y'all so much. Thanks for joining What She Said Sports. Thank you. Have a good night. See y'all tomorrow. Turn your notifications on. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Stay for another video.